On the bright planet of Youre 7, the central matchmaking square was full of life. Alien families stood around, showing off their daughters, hoping someone would choose them as mates. Beautiful music played. Colorful lights floated in the air. But in one corner of the square stood Thaya. She was quiet, alone, and far too tall. Thaya was over 7 feet tall with glowing silver skin and long white hair that touched her back. Her eyes were a bright violet and her body was strong, too strong for what most alien males wanted. She had come here 17 times before, and every time, it ended the same way. Too big. Too muscular. Too much. Not soft. Not gentle. You look like a warrior, not a wife. Each word had cut her like a knife. She didn't cry anymore. Now she just stared at the ground and waited for the next rejection. The market speaker called her name again. Thaya of Clan. Ilaria, step forward. She stepped into the center, holding her breath. Males looked at her, then quickly looked away. Some laughed quietly. Some just shook their heads. A blue-skinned elder male whispered to his son, "Don't even look at her, she'd crush you." Thaya heard it. She always did. Her fists tightened, but she said nothing. Then the crowd shifted. Heads turned. A human male walked into the square. He was dressed in plain clothes. His skin was tan, his hair dark and messy. He didn't wear armor or shiny things, but something about him made people step aside. He looked calm, different. His name was Jason. He wasn't part of any clan. He didn't belong to this planet. But he had the right to choose a mate, as humans were now welcome in many alien worlds after Earth had proved itself in the Great Galactic Wars. Thaya looked up, expecting him to walk past her like the others. He didn't. Jason stopped, right in front of her. He looked her up and down, not like the others who judged her, but like he was trying to understand her. "You're tall," he said simply. Thaya nodded. "Yes, I know. You're strong. Yes. You've been rejected." Many times, she hesitated. For 17, Jason tilted his head and smiled slightly. "Strange. I don't see a problem." Her eyes narrowed. "You don't?" He shook his head. "Where I come from, we like strong women. And I've fought enough wars to know that beauty is more than size. You look like someone who survived." For a moment, she didn't speak. No one had ever said that to her. Not once. "You don't think I'm too much?" she asked softly. Jason stepped closer, his voice firm. "No. I think you're exactly right. For the right man." Whispers moved through the crowd. A human interested in her? The speaker of the square stepped forward, confused. "Human. Do you wish to continue the pairing trial? You can still change your mind." Jason looked at Thaya. "Do you want to be chosen?" Thaya blinked. I don't know." Jason gave a small smile. "Well, I do. And I choose you." The speaker gasped. Some in the crowd laughed. Others looked angry. "A mistake," someone said. "She'll break him in one night," said another. "He must be blind," muttered one of the noble males. But Jason didn't care. He extended his hand. Thaya looked at it. No one had ever offered her their hand. Her fingers shook. But slowly she placed her hand in his. For the first time, her hand didn't feel too big. It felt like it fit. Jason smiled again. "You're not too big, Thaya. You're just, not for small minds." She felt something crack inside her, like a frozen heart starting to melt. As they walked out of the square together, whispers followed them. So did laughter. But Thaya didn't look down anymore. She walked tall, proud, and beside her, the strange human who didn't see a flaw, only fire. And that was the day everything changed. Thaya sat on the edge of a smooth stone bench outside the market, her large hands resting in her lap. Her silver skin shimmered under the twin suns of Youre 7. The square behind her was still noisy, full of laughter and chatter, most of it about her. She must have bribed him. No human would pick that. Maybe he's crazy. She heard every word, but beside her sat Jason, quiet and calm. He held a drink in one hand and a small snack stick in the other, chewing slowly like none of the noise bothered him. Thea didn't speak. She was still trying to understand what had happened. He had chosen her, not pitied her, not laughed at her. Chosen. And now, he just sat there, like it was the most normal thing in the galaxy. "Why are you so calm?" she asked suddenly. Jason shrugged. "Should I be scared?" Thea glanced at him. "Everyone else is. They think I'm a monster." He turned toward her and looked her in the eye. "That's because they're blind." Thea blinked. "What?" Jason leaned back against the bench. "They see your size, not your soul. They don't look past your body, but I do." She didn't know what to say. Back in her clan, strength was respected only in males. Females were supposed to be soft, small, and quiet. Thea was none of those things. Her mother once tried to bind her bones to stop her from growing too tall. Her father left before she was even born. She was raised in silence, in shame. "Do you really think I'm not too big?" she whispered. Jason laughed, not at her, but softly, kindly. "Where I'm from, size isn't a curse, it's power, and power is beautiful." For a second, Thea turned her face away. Her eyes stung. No one had ever used the word beautiful for her before. She cleared her throat. "The others think you're only doing this for attention, that you're trying to make a joke." Jason raised an eyebrow. "Do I look like I'm laughing?" Thea studied him. His eyes were serious. "Honest?" "No," she said finally. "You don't." He stood up and offered his hand again. "Let's walk. You need to see something." She hesitated, then rose beside him. The moment she stood, everyone turned to stare. Jason ignored them. They walked through the village toward the edge of the cliffs where wind moved through glowing blue trees. The suns began to lower in the sky, painting the world gold and violet. As they reached the cliff's edge, Jason pointed down. Below, a group of young human children played near the water. They jumped, laughed, and chased strange animals. And among them was a young alien girl, taller than all of them. Alone. "She's like me," Thea whispered. Jason nodded. "I saw her 2 days ago. None of the kids wanted to play with her. They said she was too big, too different." She cried. Thea's voice was soft. "That's how I was." Jason turned to her. "That's why I picked you. Not just because you're strong, but because I see the heart inside you. And maybe one day that girl will see you and believe in herself." Thea stared at the little girl below. The child glanced up, and their eyes met. The girl's face lit up. She waved. Thea waved. Back her hand was shaky, but it stayed in the air. "She's watching you," Jason said, "so don't hide who you are." Thea felt her chest rise with something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. "I'm not used to this," she said quietly. "Kindness. Truth." "Well," Jason said with a grin, "get used to it." They both stood in silence, watching the glowing suns melt into the ocean, and for the first time in her life, Thea wasn't trying to make herself smaller. She stood tall. By morning, the whole town was talking about it. Did you hear? A human picked her. The giant one? Impossible, he must be cursed. Thea walked quietly beside Jason through the dusty streets of Youre 7. The shops were open, markets alive, but everywhere they went, eyes followed them. Some stared with confusion, some whispered behind their hands, some simply turned their backs. It didn't matter where they went. The story had spread faster than the twin moon's rise. A human male had chosen a female no one else wanted. A female too big, too bold, too different, and no one liked it. Jason noticed the stares but didn't slow down. His calm never broke. "You walk like nothing's wrong," Thea finally said. Jason chuckled. "Because nothing is." She looked down at herself. Her long arms, broad shoulders, strong legs, built for war, not for love. To them, she said, "I'm a joke." Jason stopped walking. "To me, you're a miracle." That word, miracle, it melted something sharp inside her chest. Just then, a rough voice shouted behind them, "Hey, giant, leave the human alone." They turned. 3 alien males stood across the path. All wore the red armor of noble-born houses. One of them, Krarn, was among the 17 who had rejected her before. He was shorter than her by a head, but his eyes burned with arrogance. Jason's eyes narrowed. "You know them?" Thaya nodded slowly. "Krarn used to speak to me in secret. Before he rejected me in front of the others, said I embarrassed him." Krarn stepped forward with a smirk. "You're still embarrassing, Thaya. Now you're dragging humans into your shame?" Jason stepped in front of her without hesitation. "We're not looking for trouble." But Krarn wasn't interested in peace. "She doesn't belong to you," he growled. "You're not one of us, human." Jason didn't flinch. "She doesn't belong to anyone. She walks beside me by choice." That made Krarn furious. "Then let's see if she's still perfect after I break your face," he snapped, rushing forward. Before Thaya could even react, Jason stepped aside and moved fast, too fast. He ducked the punch, grabbed Krarn's wrist and twisted. The alien fell to the ground with a loud grunt. The other 2 stepped back, stunned. Jason released Krarn and looked him in the eye. "You touch her again, I'll make sure you can't touch anything ever again." Krarn spat in the dirt. "You'll regret this." "No," Jason said coldly. "You will." Thaya stood frozen, not because she was afraid, but because someone had just fought for her. Not out of duty, not for honor, just because he cared. As the noble males backed away, limping and scowling, the villagers around them stayed silent. Some looked surprised, some looked impressed. A few even looked guilty. Jason turned back to her. "You okay?" Thaya nodded slowly. "Why did you do that?" He smiled softly. "Because I don't let anyone insult someone I care about." Her heart skipped, not because he protected her, but because of the word he used, care. That night, the stars looked different. The air felt warmer, and Thaya, once thrown away by 17 suitors, sat beside the one man who saw value in what others feared. The stars above Kirellan 7 were quiet that night, but Thaya's heart was not. She stood at the edge of the forest trail, a small bag slung over her shoulder, looking back at the village that had never truly been home. The place where she had been laughed at, rejected, mocked, and now she was leaving it behind. Beside her, Jason adjusted the strap on his backpack and looked up at her with a smile. "Second thoughts?" he asked. Thaya didn't answer at first. The wind touched her hair as she stared at the distant lights of her clan's tall buildings. They hadn't even said goodbye. "No," she finally said. "There's nothing left for me there." Jason nodded. "Good. Then let's find a place that's for you." They walked side by side into the glowing woods, trees lighting up with soft blue pulses as they passed. The path was old, built during the human expansion years ago, but rarely used now. Jason had a destination, Sanctuary Hill. It was a quiet settlement at the edge of the southern cliffs, where humans and aliens lived without rules from old clans or high councils. No match trials, no bloodline laws, just peace. Thaya kept glancing at him as they walked. He didn't talk much, but his presence was steady, safe. She had never known that feeling before. "Why are you helping me?" she asked after an hour. Jason didn't stop walking. "Because I want to. That's not a reason." He chuckled. "It is to me." They reached a small stream. Jason bent down, splashing water on his face. Thaya crouched beside him. Her reflection stared back at her, tall, glowing, fierce. But in Jason's presence, she didn't feel monstrous. She just felt like herself. You know, she said quietly, I used to wish I could shrink, just once, be small, be normal. Jason tilted his head. Why? So someone would want me. Jason was silent for a long moment. Then he said, I used to wish I was bigger, stronger, so I could protect the people I lost. Thaya turned to him. You lost people? He nodded. War takes a lot, more than weapons ever do. But it also teaches you what matters. Kindness, loyalty, truth. He looked up at her. And when I saw you standing alone in that square, I didn't see someone too big. I saw someone too strong to give up. Thaya looked away, swallowing the lump in her throat. They camped under the stars that night. Jason built a fire, using dry roots and stones. Thaya sat across from him, listening to the crackle. In the warmth of the firelight, her features softened. The sharp lines of her warrior's body looked like statues carved by time and battle. Jason reached into his bag and pulled out a small cloth bundle. Here, he said, tossing it to her. She opened it. Inside was a folded sleeve wrap, Earth style. Not traditional, not fancy, but warm and blue, the same color as her eyes. She blinked. For me? Jason nodded. Saw it at the trade stop. Thought it might suit you. Thaya wrapped it around her shoulders. It barely fit, but she didn't care. No one had ever given her a gift, not once. She looked at him and softly said, I don't know what I am to you, but thank you. Jason smiled. You'll figure it out. And in the silence that followed, something unspoken passed between them. Something real. The next morning, they continued their journey. Sanctuary Hill was now only 1 day away, but Thea had already found something rarer than any place. She had found someone who didn't want her to be less. He wanted her to be free. The village of Sanctuary Hill came into view as the morning fog lifted. It wasn't large, just a cluster of homes built from stone and wood, wrapped around a peaceful valley with glowing plants and soft buzzing insects. No royal flags, no judgmental eyes, just calm. Thaya stood still for a moment at the edge of the ridge, staring down at it. She had never seen a place so quiet. Jason stepped beside her. This is it. No matchmaking trials, no bloodline rules, just people who live. She didn't say anything. Her eyes scanned the village, expecting hidden stares or whispers waiting behind walls. But the people below were too busy planting, building, laughing, living. She felt something strange in her chest, like pressure, but not pain. They walked into the village. No guards challenged them. No one looked away. An old alien woman even waved. Is she smiling at me? Thaya asked in surprise. Jason nodded. Yep. Why? Because you're not scary here. You're just new. A group of children ran past, human and alien together. One of them, a small green-skinned boy, stopped in his tracks and looked up at Thaya. His eyes grew wide. You're so shiny, he whispered. Thaya looked down, unsure what to do. You look like a warrior princess, the boy added, grinning. And just like that, she smiled. Not the polite, forced smile she wore when she was trying to fit in, but a real one. Soft, surprised, almost confused. It felt strange on her face, like her muscles didn't know how to handle joy. Jason saw it and said gently, That's the first time I've seen that. She blinked. What? A real smile. From you? She looked away, a little embarrassed. Maybe I forgot how. Jason nodded. You'll remember. 1 day at a time. They were led to a guest house near the orchard trees. It was small, clean, and quiet. Thea stepped inside slowly. Her large body didn't have to duck under the door. The ceilings were high. The bed was strong and wide. She touched the walls, the window, the table. Everything felt safe. Later, Woman named Lyra brought warm soup and bread. She didn't stare at Thaya's size or comment on her looks. She just smiled and said, "Eat. You're welcome here." Thaya took the bowl carefully. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but from something deeper. She sat with Jason near the window. The sunset painted the sky in soft purples. "Why are these people so kind?" she asked. Jason looked out across the village. "Because they were like us once. Outsiders, survivors. No one comes here perfect. That's the point." She watched a tall alien male walk by with a human partner. No one stared. No one laughed. For the first time in her life, she wasn't being watched like a mistake. She leaned back, letting the sunset touch her face. "I never thought I'd see a place like this," she said softly. Jason looked at her. Then, "I'm glad I brought you." There was a silence. Not heavy, not awkward, just full of peace, full of something growing. That night, Thaya sat under the stars. No armor, no weapons. Just her, wrapped in the blue earth cloth Jason had given her, and the warm memory of a small boy who called her a princess. She touched her face again, as if to feel the smile still there. For the first time, it didn't fade quickly. It stayed. 3 quiet days passed. Thea helped an old woman repair a roof. She picked up 2 fallen carts like they were made of feathers. The villagers no longer whispered. They waved, nodded, even shared jokes. But peace never lasts long. One afternoon, a transport ship landed at the edge of Sanctuary Hill. It bore the red and gold colors of House Krarn, the same clan that had once rejected Thea and humiliated her. Jason saw the banner from the field. His eyes narrowed. "Trouble," he muttered. Thaya's heart sank. From the ship, Krarn himself stepped out, armor shining, smirk fixed on his face. 2 enforcers followed him. He looked around, clearly disgusted by the simplicity of the village. "I heard you ran away, Thaya," Krarn said loudly. "Didn't know you were hiding with pets." The villagers gathered nearby. Some looked worried, some angry. Jason walked forward, standing between Thea and Krarn. "She's not hiding," Jason said. "She's living, something you clearly don't understand." Krarn snorted. "She belongs to House Ilaria. She was part of our trials. She left without permission." Jason folded his arms. "She's not your property." Krarn grinned coldly. "Then prove it." Thaya stepped forward. "What do you want, Krarn?" Krarn turned to her. "If you wish to stay free, you must complete the rite of breaking. A ritual test to prove you're no longer bound to any clan. Old law. Still honored even here." Jason glanced at Thaya. "What's the test?" Her voice was low. "A challenge. One must face someone from the old clan and win. Not just with strength, but with heart." Krarn smiled. "Unless the human wishes to take her place." Jason stepped forward instantly. "Done." But Thea stopped him. "No," she said firmly. "I will fight. I've run from who I am long enough." Jason looked into her eyes and nodded. "Then I'll be in your corner. All the way." That night, a circle was formed in the center of the village. Torches were lit. The villagers surrounded it in silence. Krarn had brought his champion, Barracks, a sharp-clawed warrior from Thaya's old world. He was nearly as tall as her, broader, faster. As Thaya stepped into the circle, many villagers watched with fear. But Jason, he smiled. "You're not fighting to prove you belong to them," he whispered to her. "You're fighting to prove you belong to yourself." She nodded once. The bell rang. The fight began. Varix moved fast, leaping, slashing, spinning with animal speed. Thaya blocked the first blow, dodged the second, but the third hit her side and sent her stumbling. The crowd gasped. Jason clenched his fists but stayed silent. Thaya stood up slowly. Her lip was bleeding. Her muscles screamed, but her eyes burned with fire. "You called me too big," she growled. "Too strong, too much. Now face it." She moved faster than anyone expected, ducked Varix's strike, caught his arm, and slammed him into the ground. The ground shook. Gasps turned to cheers, but Thea didn't stop there. She didn't just win the fight, she walked away without finishing it. "I don't need to destroy you," she said, "because I already left you behind." Krarn's champion lay stunned on the floor, unable to move. Krarn stood frozen, face red with shame. Thea turned her back on them and walked straight to Jason. He held out his hand. This time, when she took it, she did it with her head held high. The village erupted in cheers. Thea had done what 17 suitors never expected. She rose, not by changing who she was, but by owning it. The torches were still burning when the last enemy ship lifted. Off Krarn and his warriors were gone, silent in defeat. No farewell, no last insult, only the sound of retreat. But inside the village square, it was the opposite. Laughter, cheers, and something new. Respect. Thea stood tall, blood drying on her skin, but her back straight, her breath steady. For the Youre first time in her life, she wasn't trying to shrink. She wasn't hiding her strength. Jason stood beside her, not as her protector, but as her equal. Someone clapped slowly from the orchard wall. It was Lyra, the kind woman who had first brought them food. "You've changed this place," she said to Thea. "You reminded us that power isn't something to fear." Thea gave a small smile, still catching her breath. Later that evening, the villagers prepared a quiet feast, not a celebration of violence, but of freedom. They laid out food from many worlds, including earth-baked flatbread and starfruit wine. Jason and Thea sat under the largest tree. The branches were high enough that even she didn't need to duck. Jason offered her a drink. Thea hesitated. "I don't know what this is." Jason smiled. "Try it. It's from my world." She sipped and coughed. "It's sharp. Strong," Jason said. "Like someone I know." She chuckled, an actual laugh that made the nearby kids giggle. Then, quietly, Jason reached into his side pack. "I brought something," he said, "but I didn't know when to give it." He unwrapped a small box. Inside was a simple metal ring, crafted from old starship wire and a tiny crystal in the center. "It's not expensive," he said, suddenly unsure. "But I made it myself. On Earth, when someone matters, we give something like this." Thea stared at it. "Jason, you don't have to take it," he added quickly. "This isn't about ownership, it's about choosing. I want to be with you, no one else." Thea's hands trembled as she lifted the ring. She could crush it with 2 fingers. Instead, she placed it carefully on her own finger. It fit, barely. She looked into his eyes and whispered, "I always thought no one would want me unless I became small, silent, or soft." Jason leaned closer. "But I saw you before the world told you to change, and I fell for that girl." She blinked fast. "Why?" He smiled. "Because you're not too big. You're perfect." Her breath caught. No one had ever said that word to her before. Not her mother, not her clan, not even herself. Perfect, and somehow, when he said it, she believed it. Under the starlight, surrounded by people who now saw her as more than enough, Thea rested her head on Jason's shoulder. Not as someone broken who needed fixing, not as someone frightening who needed softening, but as someone whole, just as she was. The villagers didn't cheer. They didn't need to. The quiet moment between them said everything. 17. Rejections had nearly destroyed her. But the 18th? He didn't ask her to be smaller. He told her she was enough. And then he made her his wife.